Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
And today we're going to be talking about food. And no, we're not talking about food in other countries. We're talking about food right here in Taiwan. Of course, people in Taiwan love the food here. And of course, when they travel to other countries, they really miss the food back in Taiwan. The first thing they do when they get back is head to a local night market and have some of the great food here. And the food we're going to be talking about today is called bawang, which is how we say it because we can't really pronounce that BM sound that in Taiwanese, like bala or bawang or whatever. Bawang. I can't really do it. We have trouble pronouncing it that way. But so in English, we just say bawang.
That's right. It also is translated into being a meatball or 肉圆 in Mandarin, if you're familiar with that. But it's a beloved street food. You could also say it's a beloved street food. They're both correct pronunciations. And it's got a really rich history. And we're going to talk all about this bawang in a minute. But first, we're going to listen to the article being read out loud one time, and then we'll be back.
Bawang, or Taiwanese meatball, is a beloved street food with a rich history dating back to 1898 in Beidou, Jianghua. Legend has it that during a severe flood, a local man named Fan Wanshu, inspired by divine guidance, created the original bawang. He used sweet potato starch for the skin and bamboo shoots for the filling, providing a cheap and satisfying meal for the disaster victims. Around 1935, his son incorporated pork into the filling, creating the version we know today. Making a delicious bawang requires careful preparation and precise cooking techniques. While the basic ingredients are sweet potato starch, pork, and bamboo shoots, there are other variations. Some regions add rice flour or tapioca starch to the skin for different textures. Additionally, the filling can be enriched with shrimp and mushrooms. The two primary cooking methods are steaming and frying. Steamed bawang, common in southern Taiwan, is known for its tender and juicy texture. In contrast, fried bawang, popular in central and northern Taiwan, offers a chewy exterior and a satisfyingly crispy interior. Beyond the traditional varieties, there are unique regional interpretations. For instance, Tainan is famous for its soup-based bawang, while Hsinchu features bawang with red lease pork, resulting in a distinctive pink interior. Whether it's a classic one or a creative twist, bawang remains an essential part of Taiwan's food culture. Okay, let's dive right into our article and talk about it. Of course, we're taking a bite into the rich history of the bawang. If you take a bite of something, basically you're eating, and usually that implies that you're trying it for the first time. Hey, take a bite. This is really tasty.
Yeah.
And here we are actually looking at the history of the bawang here in Taiwan. It hasn't always been here. It was actually developed, about 100 years ago or so, maybe more than that. But let's talk about it here. It's called bawang, or Taiwanese meatball. It's a beloved street food with a rich history dating back to 1898 in Beidou, Jianghua. So that's just about the time when the Japanese took over Taiwan in 1895. And yes, indeed, the Japanese were here, and maybe the local people were kind of angry at the Japanese. And you can't force us to eat sushi and sashimi and stuff like that. So the people here thought, hey, we got to eat our own stuff. And maybe that's why they came up with this kind of food.
You know, Tom, you mentioned something when you were talking about the title that got me thinking. When we use the phrase to take a bite, hey, take a bite of this, it really does mean you've never tasted it before, and someone's trying to offer it to you, get you to try it. But if we say, have a bite of this, that doesn't mean you haven't had it before. Maybe someone bought a donut and they're eating it in front of you and they say, oh, have a bite. They want to share it with you. So just switching out those two verbs, take a bite and have a bite, change what that means to us. So take a bite. You haven't tasted it before, just try it. but have a bite someone wants to share with you.
And if it's something you drink, you could take a sip or have a sip, which is just a little bit of the liquid in your mouth just to taste it. You don't drink very much. And yes, indeed, it's been around since 1898, and it was discovered in this town, Beidou, in Jianghua, which is in central Taiwan. And legend has it that during a severe flood, a local man named Fan Wan Chu, I hope I said that right, inspired by divine guidance, created the original bawan. Okay, so this is a legend. We don't really know if this is true, but according to the legend or the story that we cannot verify, there was a big flood in the area, and this man, whose surname was Fan, he was inspired by divine guidance. So if you're inspired by something, of course, you see something or you experience something, and it causes you to do something else, okay? If you travel to Europe, for example, you might be inspired by all the architecture there, and you decide, hey, I love those cathedrals in Europe. I want to be an architect someday. You were inspired by those buildings. But he was inspired by divine guidance, which would mean some kind of direction from a deity or a god or something. Maybe Tudigong was talking to him in his dreams or something like that. And that's the legend here. And because of that guidance, he created the original bawan.
How he did it was that he used sweet potato starch for the skin or the outside part, and then bamboo shoots for the inside part, or what we call the filling. So the filling is inside something that has some sort of outer covering, and this provided a cheap and satisfying meal for the disaster victims. So this was something that was very easy and cheap to make. These ingredients were very easy to find back then. They still are. Sweet potato starch, absolutely. And then the bamboo shoots. So if you're talking about a disaster, something bad has happened. It could be an earthquake. It could be a tsunami. It could be a typhoon. Those are called natural disasters where a lot of destruction happens. A lot of people are hurt. Things are damaged. We know that this guy, though, felt like he needed to be helping feed these flood victims. That was the disaster that had occurred at that point. And he wanted to do something that he could afford, and so he needed to find some ingredients that were pretty cheap. And if you talk about a meal being satisfying, it tastes good and it fills you up, so you're not starving anymore.
And it also tasted good as well. You enjoyed it. It's kind of interesting here because this guy was surnamed Fan. I knew a guy here in Taiwan when I first came to Taiwan whose name was Fan. And we tried to learn the word disaster, and he just could not say the word correctly. I got so frustrated. He kept saying disaster, disaster. No, you have to say disaster with a Z sound there. And in any case, we're talking about this disaster, which was a flood. It could be an earthquake, a tornado, or whatever. And around 1935, several years later, his son incorporated or added pork into the filling, creating the version we know today. So the original version is not really what we see today. Somebody might sell it somewhere. You could try the original version, but the one we most know about is the one that has pork in the filling. The filling, of course, is the stuff inside of the skin or whatever it's cooked inside.
That's right. So when you're tasting different versions of different dishes, you'll appreciate, I think, sometimes that chefs have different ideas or different types of inspiration as what to add to it or take away. There are lots of versions of, for example, beef noodle soup here. I've tasted so many different bowls of beef noodle soup in Taiwan. My favorite actually happens to be located right in my neighborhood.
How convenient.
I know. I can walk there and back, and it doesn't even take 5 minutes. But, oh, man, it's good. And it continues to be delicious. They don't change their recipe, which I love. So if you come up with a really great recipe, maybe you should stick with it. Don't change it, because people probably have gotten attached or grown fond of it. Let's move on to the next paragraph here. It says, making a delicious bawan requires careful preparation and precise cooking techniques. So you can't just 随便 cook this, right? You have to be very careful, and you have to prepare what you're going to use carefully as well. As when you're cooking, you need to probably add the right ingredients in the right amounts. So you might have to measure things. That's why they say precise cooking techniques. You have to cook it maybe for the right amount of time at the right temperature. All of these things go into achieving what would be considered a successful 霸王.
Right. There are some foods that are very simple to prepare. Maybe donuts are pretty simple. You just boil the dough in hot oil and there you go. But this one requires careful preparation. You need to prepare things ahead of time, get all the ingredients ready, and then you have to apply precise cooking techniques. As you said, you have to have the right temperature and use the right oil or whatever. And while the basic ingredients are sweet potato starch, pork, and bamboo shoots, there are other variations. So these are the basic ingredients. You've got sweet potato starch. Starch is like this white powder that comes from food. I think it's dianfen in Mandarin. You've also got the meat from a pig, which is pork. And then you've got bamboo shoots, which are like the roots of the bamboo. They're kind of hard and they're conical shaped. They're actually very tasty. And those are the basic ingredients of a bawang. But you could have some other variations, okay? You may have different people preparing it with a few other ingredients, maybe a different kind of meat or something, or adding some spices or whatever, or not really using the bamboo shoots and substituting something else. Yeah, there are variations or different kinds according to the people or the area where they're made.
Yeah, that sweet potato starch is used quite often here in Taiwan. Not so much in America, but here it's very popular. It has a different kind of texture than, say, wheat flour or even rice flour. It's a little different, but it's very, it turns into something that's quite chewy. We're going to talk about that. But yeah, I must confess, bamboo shoots aren't my favorite thing to eat, but I know they're popular here.
I think they are what you call an acquired taste. If you taste it for the first time, you're probably not going to like it, but after you eat it several times, you'll start to like it.
I've been here 20 years now. I eat it quite often. It's just not my favorite vegetable,
I could never get used to cho tofu. I hated it the first time I ate it, and I still hate it now. I just don't like the smell of it. It smells like something else, but in any case, some people do get used to this bamboo shoots. And some regions or different areas of Taiwan, the north, the center, the south, the east, or whatever, there are other variations. They add rice flour or tapioca starch to the skin for different textures. Texture is basically referring to how it feels in your mouth, whether it's crispy or smooth or whatever. And yes, they add different ingredients to make the texture a little different. One ingredient they add would be rice flour, flour from rice, which is dried and ground down into a powder. And then you've got tapioca starch. Tapioca, of course, is that thing that is used to make the little black balls in your bubble tea. Those are made out of tapioca. This would be the starch from tapioca.
I wanted to mention with the vocabulary word texture, we use it to talk about someone's skin or the texture of your hair, perhaps. How it feels. It's not just how it feels, but it's the appearance of something. It could be the consistency of something. We talk about how things like cheese has a soft texture or a hard texture. So we use that quite frequently. Sometimes I will dislike particular types of food just because of the way they feel in my mouth.
Yeah, you said that before about bananas.
Like bananas drive me crazy. I think they're really tasty. I like they're sweet and yummy, but I just hate the mushy texture. I love banana bread. I will eat banana bread anytime someone wants to give me some. But bananas, I like them a little firmer once they turn really soft. It kind of turns me off. I don't like it.
Well, maybe you should try bajiao. Or bajiao, that's a kind of a banana that's kind of hard. I don't know if you've ever had that.
I've had it.
Oh, you have. It didn't improve your
It's a little too tough for me, yeah.
Okay, well, that's good enough. But we've reached the midway point in our lesson for today. Hey, let's listen now to our Chinese teacher.
听众朋友大家好，我是安娜。我们今天要带大家来吃肉丸哦，好好吃哦。不过你喜欢吃蒸的还是吃炸的肉丸呢？哎呀，我们今天就要用一个克漏字来说明一下台湾肉丸的历史，还有各种不同的口味哦。好， 首先当然第一段呢，一定会介绍一下霸王嘛。那霸王是大家都很喜欢的，其实它的历史是很丰富哦。在第一段第一句当中，我们看到一个关系子句的简化，先行词是 a rich history， 它其实是有着丰富历史。这丰富历史要回到什么时候啊？ dating 一直到句尾我们左右括号。 dating 这个动词其实还原的话是汇取或者是 that 代替前面的先行词 a rich history， 跟动词还原的dates D-A-T-E-S， 也就是说它可以回溯回到19世纪在彰化北斗这个地方。好，那接下来我们既然要讲历史呢，开始了第二句，也就是第一题哦。第一题可能根据我们上下文，我们既然要谈历史的话，一定是大家以前都怎么说， B 的选项是最适合，可是你可能会觉得 A 为什么不行？ A 的 word gets around 指的是消息迅速的传开来，它并没有说大家当时怎么说的意思，所以第一题应该选 B 是比较合适的。那接着呢，我们来到同样在这个第二句的地方，第二句其实它有这个关系子句的简化哦。先行词是 a local man， 原来啊，当时是一个有本地人，他谁呢？后面带了两个关系子句的简化，第一个是 named， 一直到逗点前面who was named， 他当时啊，他的名字大家都叫他范万居，他怎样呢？逗点之后 inspired， 一直到逗点这个地方也是关系子句的简化，同样省略的是 who was，他当时啊，是因为被神圣的引导者，也就是神明所启发。好，这句话真正的动词就落在后面 created， 他才发明了所谓原本的霸王。那他怎么做呢？来到第三句是个分词构句哦，这个分词构句是 and 连接第一个动词 used 跟逗点之后第二个动词 provided， 这两个动词连接词省略，第二个动作 provided 变成 ing 型的这个分词构句。好，所以他就用地瓜粉啊，然后里面就放了一些竹笋啊等等，然后就做成这个肉丸。那当时为什么要做肉丸呢？同样在这个第三句最后面我们看到了第二题。第二题为什么会选 A 这个 victim 受难者啊？因为其实回过头来我们看到前面第二句话在逗点之前有一个 flood， 原来当时是因为有严重的洪水的关系，所以他就做这个肉圆给大家。那当然在第二段最后面，在同样的这个第一段最后面第四句这个地方也是分词构句哦，要注意哦，也是一个 and 省略的分词构句。第一个动词是 incorporated 后来到1935年的时候，他儿子啊就加入了一些猪肉 and created 逗点之后的 creating 本来有一个连接词 and 就创造了我们现在知道肉丸这个版本 version。而这个 version the version 后面的 we know today 其实是关系词汇取或 that 的一个省略。好，来到第二段啦，我们就看到了做肉丸其实要很仔细的准备哦，很细心，然后有一些烹饪的技巧。不过这一段我们要先特别注意的是第二句的地方，这第二句一开始的 while 在这里根据文意的推断是 although 虽然的意思。好，虽然基本上的有一些 ingredients 啊内容物啊，有像是地瓜粉来包肉啊，这个还有这个竹笋啊，但是有很多的 variations， 有很多的变异不同的口味，所以来到第三句很重要的最后一个单字的 texture 就可以把它抓出来。最重要的是啊，根据你可以用再来米粉啦，或者是树薯粉啦，会可以改变肉丸的一个口感哦。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. It's our food unit, and we're taking some time to focus on some of the rich history of Taiwanese food, and we're spending some time on the very tasty but I think a favorite dish Taiwan has produced is the bawang, which is royuan in Mandarin, but I think everybody calls it a bawang in Taiwan. We don't speak Taiwanese really. Tom is learning, but I just think it's so hard. So we'll just stick with our script here. When we left you, we were talking about how it first came to be, and that was back in the I think was it 19th century? Yeah, 1898 in Beidou, Zhanghua. And there's a story around it. We call it a legend because it was passed down through the ages from person to person, word of mouth. Legend has it, we don't know if these are facts, but during a very severe flood, when a lot of water came into the area, a local man was inspired by divine guidance to create what he called the bawan, and he used really affordable or cheap ingredients to produce this dish to feed some of the victims of that flood. He used sweet potato starch for the skin and then bamboo shoots for the filling. But later, his son, I'm sure they had more money at that point in time, was able to add pork or incorporate pork into the filling, and that's kind of the version we know today. Now we're going to focus on some of the variations that we find in the bawan in different regions. And that's where we left you.
Yep, some regions will add rice flour or tapioca starch to the skin to have different textures. And additionally, or also, the filling can be enriched with shrimp and mushrooms. So if you enrich something, you just add something to it to make it better. And yes, you could add some shrimp to it or mushrooms to give it a different kind of taste. And the two primary cooking methods are steaming and frying. Okay, so if you steam something, you cook it using the steam from water. You usually use a bamboo steamer, and you put that over water that is boiling, so the steam rises up and heats the thing up like what kind of zhengjiao, right? They are steamed.
Yeah.
And then they could be fried, which probably refers to deep frying them in oil. We also use the word frying to talk about something that is cooked in a pan with oil. French fries are actually deep fried, but maybe some kinds of foods pork chops or steak or whatever.
Yeah.
They're fried in a pan or on a grill. That's also called frying or grilling if it's over a grill. But in this case, there are two main ways to cook these things. Again, steaming and frying.
Yeah, so those are the primary cooking methods, meaning those are the ones used most frequently. Steaming we use all the time here in Taiwan, or typically in Asian dishes. There's a lot more steaming that's done here than I would say in the United States.
Sure.
We don't do a lot of steaming. We do more baking, frying, stewing. But here, steaming, which is actually healthier for you, which I appreciate. They do the steamed bawan down in southern Taiwan. That's what they commonly do to produce their bawan. And their bawans are known for being very tender and juicy. And that sounds delicious right now. I'm hungry. And in contrast, or as a change or a different kind of bawan, we have the fried bawan, popular in central and northern Taiwan. Right now, we're, of course, in Taipei, so we're up in the north. And that fried bawan offers a chewy exterior. The exterior is the outside of something. Maybe you could talk about the exterior of your home needs a fresh coat of paint. It just looks a little, run down. So you need to put some new paint on the exterior of the building. Now, this deep fried method of making the bawan offers a chewy exterior. I like chewy food. I like crispy food the best. And it says by frying them, it gives you a satisfyingly crispy interior. So here's the opposite of exterior is the interior. We use interior a lot to talk about the inside of something. For example, maybe you're getting a new car and you want a leather interior as a car order that you're placing. So you want to change what they have, just as the standard interior of that model of car, and you want the higher end leather interior, the luxurious interior. Here, it sounds pretty delicious to have a chewy exterior and a crispy interior.
A lot of different choices, and you may have different choices inside the same night market. And here the final paragraph says, beyond the traditional varieties, there are unique regional interpretations. So an interpretation is just somebody gets an idea and then they sort of think about it themselves and they maybe change it. It's unique to that person or it's unique to that area. So you got different people in different parts of Taiwan. If they sell them or make them in Hualien or Taidong, for example, they may use local ideas about cooking and incorporate those ideas into the bawan there. You will get regional varieties that way.
Yeah, we often use interpretations to talk about someone's style, how they do something. Maybe they're an actor, their interpretation of a role, or a chef's interpretation of a dish. So we're using it that way here.
That's right. And for instance, we've got an example here. In Tainan, it's famous for its soup-based bawan. So if you like soup, that's a good place to get it. And then go up north to Hsinchu. And Hsinchu features bawan with red Lee's pork. That's some kind of pork, something that comes from pork. I think it's like leftover meat or something like that. So it's a different kind of pork. And that is a specialty of Hsinchu. And that results in a distinctive pink interior. Okay, so sometimes when you eat food, the taste is one thing, but also the sight of what you're eating can also be an experience. So if you're looking forward to seeing something pink, this might be the variety for you.
They have the saying, you eat with your eyes first. So how something appears is something that gets your appetite going and makes you start, salivating to eat that dish. So whether it's a classic one or a creative twist that you're going to eat, bawan remains an essential part of Taiwan's food culture. If it's essential, it's very important, it's vital, it's something that's really been around for a long time. It's something that people associate with Taiwanese food.
Absolutely. So it's an essential part of Taiwan's food culture, and it's important. So if you're in Taiwan, if you're a visitor to Taiwan, or if you have foreign guests coming to Taiwan, if you have someone coming from overseas who's a businessman and you want to show them around and introduce Taiwan to this person, yes, introduce them to bawan because it's a very important part of the food culture here in Taiwan. They will be eternally grateful for introducing that food to them. They will always remember their trip to Taiwan, and if you're doing business with them, well, they'll probably always sign contracts with you and you will get really rich.
Right now, guys, someone who's always rich is our Chinese teacher. We're going to listen now.
所以除此之外呢，我们刚刚讲到说这个皮啊，如果说用不同的这个粉呢，可以改变口感之外，它的内馅 the feelings 在第二段的第4句，我们来到第3题。第3题你可能是 C 跟 D 的这个选项会觉得有一点怪怪的。好，我们既然在讲内容物，我们讲食物的话，应该就是会讲因为添加什么东西，口感啊，或者是味道有所不同。所以这个 C 的 enrich 让口感让味道丰富的这个选项呢是比较适合放在第3题的，所以也有人会加一些虾米啦或者是香菇啦。但是呢接着我们又来到第2段，在第1句当中有提到的不同的 preparation 跟不同的 cooking techniques。 好，这个 techniques 第5句呢 two primary cooking methods 有2种，第1种是蒸的，第2种是用油炸的。好，我们来到了第2段的5、6句这个地方啊，都有非限定用法关系子句的简化。好，首先我们来看到的这个第6句，在这里的 steamed 霸丸 steamed 霸丸怎样呢？后面逗点的 common 一直到逗点 Taiwan 这个地方，南部啊 which is common in southern Taiwan 通常都是蒸的霸丸。好，那它怎样？第6句后面呢，我们看到的是第4题了。第4题因为我们要谈蒸的霸丸跟油炸的霸丸，所以在这边第4题的一个转成词语用 be in contrast， 而相反呢，如果是用油炸，那它的口感如何如何。好，所以接下来我们看到第4题这个 fried 霸丸后面 popular 到台湾，逗点中间给它括号起来，也是一样非限定用法关系子句简化 which is 的一个省略。好，那么到最后第3段呢，当然就是说呢，除了这些各种不同的变异之外啊，其实还有一些地区性的一种 interpretation。 interpretation 是一种诠释，诠释什么呢？你要把霸丸这个食物把它诠释出它的精髓，它的味道出来，其实它也有表演表现的意思。好，所以第5题呢，根据啊下面在第3段第2句我们看到有台南、新竹啊，还有红糟肉圆啊，比较地区性的一个表现，所以第5题选 D 的答案 regional 是比较好。而最后面的第3段的第2句，这里有一个 while 在这里就不是偶逗哦，它是然而哦，台南啊有汤肉圆，然而呢到了新竹却有红糟肉圆。 所以希望大家今天吃肉圆吃得开心哦。我是安娜，我们下次见。
That's it for today, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And yes, please join us next time after you've filled up with some bawang. I'm sure all of you are thinking right now to head to your local bawang restaurant and stuff yourself silly. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.